That's good. That's it. We'll go to you now quickly. Anchor.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. So it's a new segment. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's happening?
Okay. So as you started a new section last night, and so I'm trying to carry this on every week. It's just relevant news from the whole week, and then we will at the end we will look at this week with Azur, a short clip from that. That's all. Okay. So is my screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. So I think the first thing that we should talk about is the coronavirus, because this is always in the news. And so new restrictions are being placed in the Northwest, Midlands and West Yorkshire. I think this is quite relevant to us because places as close as Wolverhampton's are having new restrictions placed on them. And so some of these restrictions include a ban on separate households from meeting each other at home or in private gardens. These rules come into effect on Tuesday, and these rules are in addition to the rule of 6, which was introduced last week, which is already confusing a lot of people. Boris Johnson is considering further measures to slow the spread of coronavirus by shutting down pubs and restaurants either altogether or limiting their opening times to, just reduce the infection. Now, when you talk about the increase in infections, the increase in cases and infections, you have to consider the R number, which sort of shows you the infection rate. And so the latest R number, I took it from the government website, which was updated today, and it's said to be in a range from 1.1 to 1.4. And this essentially tells us that if 10 people have coronavirus, they'll pass it on to either 11 or between 11 to 14 people. And so this is a growth rate of between 2% to 7%. So on the left here, we have a small graph, and this shows the increase in cases that would occur if there was initially 1,000 cases. So now at the moment, I'm sure we have more than 1,000 cases, but if there was 1,000 cases, if there was the same R rate as we have now, which is 1.1, which is the lowest end of the range, we would have in 60 days 25,000 cases. And in order for the increase in cases to peter off, to level off, the R rate would have to be 0.5. So it shows that this increase is serious, and it's probably right for them to install new measures, and probably that the whole eat out to help out thing was a huge mistake. So yeah, that's just an update on what's happening with the coronavirus, especially in our area. So next, like you said, a small football section last time, so I thought I'd carry on. I tried to pick out 2 headlines from this week. So one of the main ones was about a new Liverpool signing, which is a 29-year-old from Bayern Munich, Thiago Alcantara. He signed a long-term deal for Liverpool with Liverpool for £20 million, which is quite cheap. But I think the biggest headline was Gareth Bale coming back to Tottenham on a 5-year deal. I think that's right anyway, unless I've read some fake article. He was spotted at the training ground today, and he's come on a fee for 35 million. I think it's quite exciting, honestly, for the whole league, even as a Chelsea fan, to see him come back and play for Tottenham, maybe regain some of his form. It's quite exciting to see what will happen.
Yeah.
And there's one more section. I was searching online for international news, and one thing that kept popping up was Yemen. Now, according to UNICEF, Yemen is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world, with more than 24 million people, some 80% of the population in need of humanitarian assistance, including more than 12 million children. Now, if I can remember correctly from when I previously researched this, when people try to bring the aid in, it's quite hard because the ports are being bombed. And so it's created quite a severe crisis, which has become worse due to COVID-19, which is now rapidly spreading. So Yemen is now facing an emergency within emergency. Sanitation and clean water are in short supply. Only half of health facilities are functioning. and many that remain operational lack basic equipment like masks and gloves, let alone oxygen and other essential supplies to treat coronavirus. Many health workers are receiving no salaries or incentives, and 10.2 million children don't have access to basic healthcare. Currently, thousands face starvation, and the reason that this is relevant at the moment in the news is because the UN Secretary General said that the country is on the brink of famine. Our Foreign Secretary, the Foreign Secretary of the UK, Dominic Raab, said that they would provide a further 5.8 million in UK aid to help avert a famine in the country. This seems quite generous. However, I think you have to look a little bit deeper, and you will see that the United Kingdom has actually made a lot of money off arms sales to Saudi Arabia, who is part of the coalition that is bombing Yemen, that is sort of and causing this whole crisis in the first place. So it may not be as generous as it seems. So we've looked at quite a lot of the news internationally and locally. I think this is also important to consider what's happening in the Jamaat. And every week there comes an episode on YouTube, as you can see on MTA News, called This Week with Hazur. And today I'll show like a 3-minute clip of a mulaqat between Hazur and some Jamia students who were cut off from their studies due to the coronavirus pandemic. And so there's a short 3-minute section here. I would encourage everyone to watch all of it. Oh, it's working.
However, this week's main story regards the graduating class of Jamia Ahmadiyya UK. These students saw their studies disrupted by the global pandemic and have instead been performing duties at Islamabad for several months. 2 weeks ago, they were invited by beloved Hazur for what became the first in a series of private lessons.
So the first thing I realized was how well Khalifatul Masih knows each and every single one of us. On the day of the first class, as soon as Hazur came in and sat down, he started from the right and pointed at each person and told us our names. And he said, Tum Hariso, Tum Mubarizo, Tum Attaro, Tum Safrazo. And even we had masks on covering half our faces, and Hazur was still able to recognize us.
Hazur asked about my father, and this was regarding his operation which he had a while ago. And Hazur asked how he was doing. And I was shocked that Hazur asked this, because I wrote letters quite a few times during the days of his surgery. And I was just shocked about how well Hazur remembered this detail. And this just goes to show that how Hazur remembers the most minute details, even though thousands of people write letters to Hazur every day.
Dreamlike from day one. I remember the first day we were told that the class is happening. We were told 2 or 3 days prior to the class actually happening. We were told it's going to be happening on Monday and Tuesday. So what we thought was there's been some sort of miscommunication, because how could it be that he's giving us a day for mulaqat and it's 2 days, one after the other. And then we went with the mindset it could be either Monday or Tuesday. And one of these one-offs. And I remember when we first went into class and the class took place and it happened, and what happened. At the end of the class, Hazur looked at us and he says, "Okay, for tomorrow, I'm giving you homework to do 50 pages of Haqiqat al-Wahi." And that's when I just knew that something historical had just happened. A turn of event I would never imagine.
My entire class prepared the 50 pages as best as they could, because we knew that beloved Hazur would ask us about it the next day. So when it came to the next class, Hazur asked all of us if we have read the 50 pages. And when we replied that we have tried to prepare it as best as we could, Hazur went through the 50 pages and asked us about the minutest of details. And the amazing thing was that Hazur didn't actually have the book in front of him. And despite this, Hazur still knew even the smallest details about the book. And it felt as though Hazur actually had the book in front of him, but he didn't. And the amazing thing was that for us, it felt as though Hazur was our teacher and he was teaching us. And it felt as though we were sitting in a classroom. And this is something which we have never experienced before. And it's something which I will cherish forever.
And whilst reading the book,
Okay, so that was a short excerpt. I would encourage everyone to watch the whole thing. All right, Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I hope everyone else did as well. Just a few questions from me. How do you feel, Atir, personally? Firstly, with the coronavirus, you're saying it's hitting the Midlands more and more and getting closer. So we're getting trapped in Walsall now. We've got Wolverhampton on one side, we've got Birmingham on the other side. How do you feel about that?
I've been trying to stay away from it personally. It's kind of annoying because we're starting university, aren't we? And a lot of students want to go back and see their friends and stuff like that. But at the moment, it's not possible. And so it's kind of a hindrance. However, inshallah, hopefully it will get better soon. And that's all I can hope for.
Yeah. Amar, how about you? Coming from London to a place with coronavirus.
I think, in my opinion, even though like Boris has put the restrictions in place, I don't think it's worked at all. For example, I've been out on daily walks up to like the main city back home, and I'd see large gatherings, even more than 6 people. That's including shopping centers and stuff like that. So I don't think this whole restriction won't work. So that's my opinion.
And just going on what you're saying, Matar, with this week with Zuhr, I think it's one of the most incredible things. I was talking with my class because obviously we also have strong relations with all those boys who were sitting there, being in Jama with them for over 5 years, and we all agreed that we would take what they have or what they have right now, because those classes are still going on, I believe. We'll take what they have had with Huzur over anything that we had. Even though we did the whole 7 years, and alhamdulillah, we even had mulaqats with Huzur constantly. But to be able to sit in a room like that and have that personal conversation with Huzur, I think everyone in the world would want that. On the plus side, it's good because you're developing your relationship with Khilafat, and it's amazing. But the daunting thing was, how he said, okay, read these 50 pages and come back to me. And just discussing about, in his own words with Hamza, we would cover 60 pages in a week and talk about it. But this is 50 pages, one night, read it. And because Khalifa's going to ask you about it, you're going to have to read it properly. You're going to have to make notes. You're going to have to all come together and read the footnotes and read everything and try your best to answer Huzur in the best way you can. So just that in itself, it's an amazing opportunity. And those guys, alhamdulillah, they're so lucky. Yeah. But everyone has a different thing for each time. Everyone has adjusted for each time. So, whatever preparation Allah is giving these guys is going to be because the time needs it. So, mashallah, Allah bless them and help them to grow as murabbis as well. And let's keep praying for them and keep praying for the situation. Because it just reminded me of how much we miss having mulaqat as well. Huzur is doing virtual mulaqats. I'm not sure individually, but definitely with different countries and groups. But we are all longing to have that, personal mulaqat with Huzur again. So I really enjoyed that news update, and I really want to continue that, and inshallah, we'll keep getting better and better. So Jazakallah for that preparation.